Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, Vet Rehabbers. Today we are learning from Francisco Maia from the Canine PT Academy. He is a business mentor and coach in the world of veterinary rehab. Marketing is all about communication, connection, and creating a strategy that works for you. So many vet rehabbers, they lead with their credentials, the modalities, the services they offer, but that's not actually what draws in our dream clients. Now, a strong marketing strategy really can help you stand out, attract the right people, and grow your practice steadily. Francisco shares how understanding different types of leads, building a predictable system for generating them, and applying tools like the 7% rule can completely shift how you market your practice without feeling pushy or salesy. So this episode is full of practical insights and mindset shifts to help you grow a thriving veterinary rehabilitation practice in a way that actually feels good for you. Now, the Vet Rehab Summit is happening on the 8th of November, and this year's theme is Dynamic by Design, where we'll dive into canine and equine anatomy and motion. We're going to explore biomechanics, muscle activation, and movement science in practice. And it's a full day of inspiration, learning, and connection, and it's all online. Early bird tickets are officially live, and you can grab yours now with a $100 discount. And this is your chance to lock in your spot at our biggest event of the year at the best possible price. So don't wait, these early bird tickets won't last long. You can head over to www.vetrehabsummit.com to grab yours. A quick word from our sponsor before we dive into today's topic. At Paw Prosper, we believe true pet well-being demands a three-pronged approach: prevention, support, and rehabilitation. Our brands are trusted by veterinarians, universities, and rehab facilities alike. Whether you're looking to train, rehabilitate, or help your patients age gracefully, our brands Walking Pets, Help 'em Up, Respond Animal Therapeutics, Fit Paws, Muffins, Halo, Sleepy Pod, and Canine Carts offer effective, innovative, and proven solutions. You can sign up today to receive a one-time special gift for all our Online Pet Health listeners with your next order, and you can sign up by going to the special link pawprosper.com/OPH. And of course, you'll be able to see the Paw Prosper and all their brands on the 8th of November at the Vet Rehab Summit. Right, over to Francisco.
Amazing! Hi guys and welcome. Hi Francisco, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to get this week going.
I know this is a really challenging topic. I know for myself, trying to attract clients, trying to market is it's actually just ick to me is the best way to describe that. And I mean, over the last few years, Francisco, if I'm being honest with you, you've shared some incredible training with us through the Online Pet Health platform that has shifted my perspective and my thinking around marketing. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It's made the biggest difference. So I'm excited to be able to be here to learn from you again this week and to share with everyone that's with us. Francisco, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to pop your slides up on the screen here.
Good. All right. So today we're going to be talking about what is marketing and what I call the 7% rule of marketing. Is just really setting the foundation so you understand my perspective when it comes to marketing, which if you haven't heard me yet, and I have a slide in a little bit where I introduce myself so you know who the heck I am if you don't know who I am. But if you haven't heard me yet on any of the trainings through Onlinepethealth Health or through my podcast or anything like that, then this is going to be a good day to lay the foundation so you can see kind of like my perspective when it comes into marketing. But for those of you guys who do not know me, Francisco Maia, I am a doctor of physical therapy here in Chicago, United States. I have my CCRT through the Canine Rehab Institute, Have been a PT now for, I'm even losing track at this point. It's going to be 13 years actually this month that I graduated with my DPT, and then 10 years that I've been working solely with canine. So I went my certification with CRI back 10 years ago now. I have a clinic called the Canine PT here in Chicago. I'm also involved on the political sides of things a little bit too. So I am an assembly member for the Illinois Physical Therapy Association. I recently finished my 5-year term as the president of the Animal PT Special Interest Group with the American Physical Therapy Association. I've been a faculty for the CRI business course now for 6 years, since 2019. And then I also do my own business coaching and mentorship through what I call the Canine PT Academy. We have our own Facebook, the Canine Rehabpreneur Community. We have our Canine PT Academy podcast. We have a variety of different resources available, to you all, what I call like business owners and rehabpreneurs. So a lot of us in this field are, I call rehabpreneurs because a lot of us are solo. A lot of us are like a small team, and we just really try to figure it out how to make this work for ourselves. A lot of us didn't necessarily want to build a business, didn't go into the field of intention of being a business owner. But the way the field of animal rehab is set up, no matter if you're in the United States, Canada, UK, South Africa, Australia, and I've worked with, people from all over those places and more, quite often we find ourselves have to become a business owner. But then suddenly we focused so many years into how to become a great clinician, and we learn nothing about business, and we learn nothing about marketing, and that's where I really want to, start with, is how to build the foundation, how to, through marketing, so that way we start building a sustainable business for ourselves. Sounds good? So let's go to the next slide where we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's talk about first, what is marketing? Okay. For me, marketing is basically the highest level of communication that you can have with a potential client. And it's basically the beginning of a relationship. And the goal with marketing is to help them understand what we have to offer for them, so that way they can make a better and more informed decision about working with us. That way they can make a better and more informed decision about why they should work with us and maybe not a competitor down the street, right? So marketing is going to really start setting the tone for us to differentiate ourselves, because just because we do canine rehab, it doesn't mean that the clinic across town that does canine rehab provides the same service that we provide, right? And a lot of times we need to educate people about that, because people don't understand that difference, Now, the ultimate goal of marketing, of course, is to generate leads. And when I talk about leads, I mean like inquiries. I mean people maybe filling out a form on your website, or calling your business, text messaging, WhatsApp, whatever it's, the means of communication that your target audience tend to prefer. But it's not just that, because sometimes people think about marketing just being about getting new clients, but it's really about building that relationship. That's going to be the most important part of the marketing process. And what we need to understand is that if we're marketing a service, and by a service, I mean marketing, whatever you call it, if it's canine rehab, physiotherapy, physical therapy, veterinary physiotherapy, or a service like a modality, like underwater treadmill, acupuncture, laser therapy, shockwave, swim, hydrotherapy, whatever it may be. If you're marketing that service, if that's your message, then it is going to become harder and harder for us to stand out from the competition around us. Okay, because like I kind of alluded a little bit earlier, on the eye of the consumer, they're going to think that what you have to offer is the same that they can potentially get for less down the streets. Meaning, let's take laser therapy. If you're marketing laser therapy, then it's going to become hard for them to understand why they should work with you, rather than going to the general practice that they already go to, that only charges $30, $35 for a laser therapy appointment. And I'm throwing out numbers that are relevant here in the United States. I know it will vary in other places, kind of like stuff, but that's a very low number, right? Like $30 for just a laser therapy here in the United States. It's a very low number that we as canine rehab therapists are not going to be able to really compete with in a sustainable business model. That's kind of like what I mean by it. So we need to understand that most pet owners and even most veterinarians around us too do not understand what canine rehabilitation really entails. And they likely have a misconception that it is just about a modality or just about a service. They might think that, oh, canine rehab, oh yeah, it's about laser therapy. It is about underwater treadmill, and I see that quite often. And it is frustrating, to be quite honest. And I'm sure it's frustrating to you guys too, when even sometimes a veterinary surgeon is just referring out for underwater treadmill, thinking that that's going to be the solution and not just rehab as a whole with everything else that we have to offer. Right? And here's the thing for us to keep in mind is that for those of us who were the first ones providing canine rehab in a town, in a city, or even in a state. So if we go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, when our field was just taking kind of like its first steps, and we were the first ones to establish a canine rehab facility, we got busy. Those facilities got busy over time without much marketing whatsoever. Simply advertising, here, we're open, this is what we do, and maybe dropping off brochures at veterinary clinics. And by default, over time, they became the go-to place to go. That was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But the landscape is quickly changing, and there is more and more competition coming into our field. In some areas of the world, in some countries, more than others, but there is more competition regardless of where you're at compared to 10 years ago. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's an important thing. Access to rehab services, it is very underserved in a lot of places. So I think it's important. But then we need to keep in mind, okay, how are we going to differentiate ourselves, right? How do we communicate to the potential client, to the pet owner, that just because we offer canine rehab, it doesn't mean that we offer the same thing that other clinics around us have to offer. So that's why it's important to start really understanding what real marketing entails. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by real marketing in a little bit. But one thing that we also need to understand, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a shot to our own ego, is that the well-credentialed clinician, so the clinician, the therapist, the rehab vet, whoever it may be, with the most letters behind their name, it's not going to be the go-to person all the time. Not in the eye of the consumer. Why? Because the consumer don't understand what those letters mean. We understand. If I see someone with all those letters behind the name, I know they're well knowledgeable. I know they went through a lot of training to get those letters and stuff. But the pet owner really cares about one primary thing. Can this person help me with the current problem that I'm dealing with my dog? Right? And that's what I mean by being the best known person. So I'm not saying, of course, that we shouldn't go out and get our training, get our credentials and those letters and stuff, because of course that's important for us to be able to become a good clinician. But don't think that those are going to be the things that are going to be marketable. Don't think that that's going to be the thing that is going to attract clients to you. And that's where I think I see a lot of frustration going on when it comes to credentials and when it comes to equipment too. People thinking that, oh, I need to have the latest underwater treadmill. I need to have all the bells and the whistles. I need to have all the different, modalities of treatment that are available out there to make this work. Not at all, right? If you're able to deliver results with your own approach, with your own way, then let's do that. And then let's learn how to market that. So that way you can attract the type of clientele who is going to appreciate you for that. And that's what real marketing is about. And if I had to define what do I mean by real marketing with one sentence, it will come down to the fact that people often think that marketing is about getting their schedule full of new clients. A lot of times people come to me asking that question. It's like, friend, I need to figure out my marketing. And I'm like, why? What's going on? It's like, well, my schedule is not full. Well, your schedule is not full. It could be because of new clients, but it also could be to an array of other reasons too. And we're not going to know that unless we measure things. But if I had to define what I mean by real marketing, is that real marketing is about getting our schedules full of new clients who are happy to pay us what we're worth, right? So it's not just about getting our schedule full of new clients. It's about getting a schedule full of new clients who are happy to pay us what we're worth. And that's a big difference. And that's where marketing is going to be incredibly important for us to differentiate ourselves from the competition, right? So sometimes people ask me, it's like, friend, what do you do if, you have a lead, you have an inquiry who is just looking for laser therapy? Do you offer that as a standalone thing? And I'm not saying this is the right answer, but my answer is like, no, because laser therapy for me is just one piece of the puzzle. There's going to be a whole lot more that can help this dog deal with arthritis, hip dysplasia, whatever it may be. And if I were to only offer laser therapy, I'm actually doing them a disservice. So I educate them about, I offer laser therapy, but then I also offer all these other things. And this is why, this is what we're going to go through and stuff. And it's still at some point, then it's up to the pet owner to make that decision for themselves. Sometimes they're like, you know what? Actually, what you have to offer is exactly what I need. And sometimes, they're like, you know what? I'm really just looking for laser therapy right now because my vet told me about it. My friend told me about it. I read it online or whatever it may be. And then I refer them to, a clinic that might only, offer laser therapy for them alone, but they're not a good fit for us. They're not a good fit for what we have to offer, right? And that's what I mean by attracting the clients who value you for what you're worth. Another misconception, another issue I've often come across that I think is important mentioning is how marketing is gonna play a role into how much we charge. And they're gonna go hand in hand. And here's the thing I hear quite often sometimes is clinic owners thinking that they don't need to focus on marketing because their schedule is already busy. That they don't need to focus on marketing because they even have a wait list of 2, 3, 4+ weeks, even at times, for them to even be able to fit in a new patient. Here's the problem with that is at the same time, when I speak to those people, somehow there's something not working right with the business. And that's why they're coming to me. That's why they're speaking to me. They're busy, but they're still not as profitable as they would like to be, even if they're profitable at all. They're still not able to maybe hire the staff that they need to hire. Or the business owner is working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, seeing patients full-time, plus operating the business on their own and that kind of stuff, right? And that's all going to boil down to our marketing. That's where it's all going to start. So if you only see marketing as just getting patients on your schedule and your schedule is already full and you wouldn't be able to fit new patients anyways, then I get it. Then you don't need to be focusing on marketing. But if you understand the concept of real marketing, you're going to understand that it goes way beyond just getting your schedule full, right? Because if the schedule is full and you're not charging enough, then you're losing money right there, right? Or if the schedule is full and you're afraid of raising your rates, or you have tried, this is what happens sometimes too. People have tried to raise the rates, but they got pushback. That's another issue too. Or business owners sometimes are full, overworking, but they're still not paying themselves how much they should be paying at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year. That's an issue too, right? So those are just some examples, but hopefully you see what I mean. That just of having a busy schedule is not a measure of success for any canine rehab business. And I would actually argue that it's quite the opposite. A busy schedule, actually, like with a wait list, can show a lot of issues within the business. Issues that need to be addressed, right? And we got to understand, because then sometimes people get, caught up with the whole charging. How much should I charge? But I don't want to be seen as greedy, but in my area where I live, people are not going to pay as much and the cost of living has gone up. I get it, right? Guys, I've been running my own business for 8 years. I have coached and mentored canine rehab business owners now for going 6 years now. People from, all over the place, people starting their business, people with well-established clinics. I've seen all different scenarios out there. But what we got to keep in mind is that we're running the business. We have bills to pay, we have staff to pay, and at the end of the month, we also need to be paying ourselves. So the bottom line is that we need to run a profitable business. And not only will a real marketing strategy help with that, but it's actually going to be the fuel that is going to keep your business operating, that is going to keep your business moving forward. So let's talk about then, how do we go about understanding who to attract with the real marketing strategy, right? Because like I mentioned, today is about laying down the foundation about how marketing can operate for your business. Okay. All right. So you might have heard me talk about this before if you have watched my trainings on Online Pet Health or any of my own previous trainings or even podcast episode and that kind of stuff. But I love talk about the different types of lead, okay? Because for real marketing to work, we need to be able to have a direct to consumer interaction, okay? And for us to be able to do so, we need to understand where people are coming from and how they're finding us. And a common mistake we tend to make is thinking that every lead that we have, every phone call, every contact form we have on our websites, everyone who has found us and is contacting us is coming to us with the knowledge of how we can help them. But that's not the case. And not only that, but they're coming to us with a different level of trust, depending on how they found us. If their best friend referred us compared to if they found us online, or if the surgeon referred us compared to if it's the veterinarian who have, seen multiple pets that they have for, a long, long time. So how they're finding us is going to also play a factor into that trust level that they're coming to this relationship with. And I think understanding this concept is extremely important, because if we don't, then that's when business owners really struggle to make marketing really work for them, because we got to understand that it's going to require a different level of conversation. When I'm teaching about this, I like to break it down into 3 types of leads: cold, warm, and hot leads. And we talk about 2 main things. We talk about the problem that they have and the solution that we have to offer for that problem. So cold leads are those who don't know that they have a problem. And of course, because they don't even know that they have a problem, they're not even looking for a solution, right? So a lot of times those are leads, those are inquiries. I wouldn't say inquiries. Those are leads. Those are people that we talk to at community events, for example. Or those are people who find us on social media. We're doing a community event and they're like, oh, this is wonderful. Yeah, I have a dog. They talk to you. This sounds wonderful. But their dog doesn't have a problem. Their dog doesn't have a CCL tear, doesn't have arthritis, whatever it may be. So for them, you don't have anything to offer, basically. You don't have a solution to offer for their problem. Now, could they over time become a customer? Of course, right? Because we know at one point in time, dogs can get hurt. Eventually, they're going to develop arthritis and all that kind of stuff. But then that's when it becomes a time game with those leads. And we don't know how long that's going to be. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. And those are the leads that we need to find a way to keep educating them over time about how you have the solution to their problem. So that way, when they find themselves in that situation, they remember of you. They're like, oh yeah, I've been following this account on social media, or I've been getting emails from this clinic that I met at a pet event a couple of years ago, right? And that's how it works with a cold lead. And it can be a long time before they're in the position to become a paying client. And we need to be able to keep that in mind. And I think it's one of the main reasons folks tend to get frustrated with things like community events, for example, right? Because we can't go into community event expecting that our schedule is going to get filled the very next week, because a lot of people at the community events have a healthy dog. They don't have anything really that you could help much with. All right. So that's the cold leads. Then let's talk about the warm leads. Warm leads are those who know that they have a problem, but don't know yet about the solution to that problem. All right. So for example, that can be the pet owner whose older dog has arthritis and is slowing down, and they just saw their regular veterinarian for their annual senior dog checkup, and they were told to maybe slow down. They were maybe prescribed NSAID or something like that, but they weren't giving necessarily any further advice. They weren't referred to rehab or chiro or acupuncture or underwater treadmill, whatever it is also that you offer, right? That can also be the dog who was just diagnosed with a CCL tear by their vets, and now they're being referred to a surgical consult with the orthopedic surgeon, but they were not given any further advice beyond that. They were just told, you know what? Yeah, the next step is a surgical consult. And as you can imagine, for a lot of people that's a big step. It's like, oh, wow, I got to put my dog through surgery now. So what I like to ask people is put yourself in that scenario. And you are one of those dog owners. And now you know there's a problem with your dog, being the arthritis, being the CCL tear, IVDD, hip dysplasia, whatever it may be. But you're feeling lost. You're feeling lost and you're trying to figure it out. How can you help your dog? What would you do on that scenario? Most of us are going to go online and then we're going to try to find answers to those questions. And most of us are going to go to Google to look for those answers. And that's why if you understand this concept, you can really, really turn digital marketing nowadays, especially Google, although we never know the future, we never know if that's going to change. But nowadays, Google is the main search engine platform. So you can really leverage that into a way to generate leads, generate inquiries into your business. And this is where real marketing is really going to start taking shape for your business. And then we have hot leads. So let's talk about hot leads, and then we're going to circle back to warm leads on the next slide. The hot leads are those that the traditional way of marketing has taught us to go after. Those are the pet owners who know they have a problem and they were given the solution to that problem. What I mean by that is like those are the veterinary referrals that we all so desperately tend to chase after. They were told by their veterinarian what the problem was, arthritis, hip dysplasia, IVDD, CCL tear, whatever it may be, and then they were referred to you, or they were referred to rehab in general at least, right? That's a hot lead because they were told by someone who they trust, someone, you know, that they see as like very knowledgeable. They're like, oh yeah, you should look into rehab. And traditionally speaking, those are the main leads that folks tend to go after. And my theory is twofold when it comes to that, on like why we tend to focus so much on veterinary referrals. And I think we tend to do that, first of all, because that's always how it has been done. So then we see clinics that we see as successful doing, and then we just assume that's what we have to do. But we got to go back to what I said earlier. If that clinic opened 10, 15 years ago, it was very easy for them to get veterinary referrals because they were the first ones in town even doing canine rehab, right? So they became by default where veterinary clinics would refer people to. And I think the second reason is because those tend to be easier conversations, easier conversions, less pushback on the price points because they're coming to you already recommended by someone who they know and trust, already at least knowing that you have a potential solution to their problem. So there's going to be less pushback on your price. There's going to be potential less rejection. And as a way for us to protect ourselves from rejection, we tend to focus on the leads that are easier to convert, if you will, are easier to commit, you know, to what we're charging, to our rehab plan of care, whatever it may be. And that's where we all ties up with a real marketing strategy, also helping us raise our rates because it's going to allow you to change that conversation from what you have to offer, meaning the modalities of service, the equipment that you have and whatnot, to how you have the solution to their problem and the value that you bring to them. Does that make sense? So then let's talk about what I call the 7% rule in marketing. And the reason why we should be very careful focusing so much of our marketing strategy so heavily on those hot leads. And there was a research article, and I've shared this before, so you might have come this across if you've been following me, but there was a research article that you can see the screenshot there that from 2012 by Fritz, Childs, and Flynn, which for the PTs watching this right now, those names probably sound familiar, especially if you are orthopedic physical therapists, because that group of folks, they do a lot of research when it comes to back pain. And what they did at this study is they looked at primary care referrals, so primary physicians referring their patients with low back pain to physical therapy, and how many of them did, how, you know, what was the timing with that and all that kind of stuff. So the goal of the study was to just look at, like, you know, the access to PT services and like all that kind of stuff. And they even showed, you can look at it, they even showed, like, you know, better outcomes for those who went to PT early, decrease in overall healthcare costs, you know, and a bunch of other benefits. But the thing I remember that, you know, when I came across this research article a long time ago that really caught my attention, and is the area I have circled right there on the screenshot, is that the physical therapy utilization was 7% on average with some geographical variability. 7%, meaning for every 100 patients with low back pain that this primary care physician saw, 7 of them were referred to physical therapy, even though physical therapy has shown over and over again to be tremendously helpful for this particular patient population. And for me, that was fascinating, right? Because we learn in PT school, about how to treat back pain and how good we are at this and like that kind of stuff. And we learn in PT school, at least I learned, maybe it's changed nowadays, though I doubt it, that if you're trying to grow a business, you need to try to get physicians to refer patients to you. But then I'm looking at this and I'm like, wait, if I specialize in low back pain and I'm trying to get physicians around me to refer to me, that means that out of 100 patients that they see, about 7 of those have the potential of even getting referred to me. While at the same time, there are 93 other individuals out there that still have low back pain. They're still dealing with that on a daily basis and affecting their work, their life, and everything. And they don't know what to do about it, right? And that's where the direct-to-consumer marketing can really play a key factor into the growth of the business. Because then you're able to, instead of focusing so much on that 7%, you go to the bigger piece of the pie. You start marketing to the 93% instead. And if you really look, as far as I'm aware, we don't have a similar type of study in canine rehab, but is it really that much difference, right? Like, how many dogs are on a daily basis seeing their primary care veterinarian and who would benefit from rehab, and they're not being referred to rehab, especially, arthritic dog, older dogs, that kind of stuff. Like, we know how frustrating that is because we know how we can help these dogs, but a lot of them are not even given that opportunity, right? Cannot tell you how many times through the years we got to work with a dog, and then later on the pet owner will say something along the lines of like, oh, I wish I have known about you guys earlier. I wish my vet had told me about you, or I wish I have found you guys 2 years earlier, right? Like, that happens to all of us. And it's a compliment, of course, but we also should look at it as like, hey, yeah, how about I try to figure out ways that I can get in front of these people earlier on? And that's what real marketing is about. That's what direct-to-consumer marketing is about. And then there's one last thing I wanted to share to wrap up for today too. And this is something I started to realize then through the years as I build this marketing strategies, marketing systems, both for myself and for our clients as well, is, once again, going back to the idea of putting yourself in the shoes of a potential consumer, of a pet owner. And even if your vet referred you somewhere else for canine rehab, right? Even if the veterinary surgeon whose dog who just did your dog's TPLO surgery is saying, oh yeah, you should look into rehab and you should go to XYZ place. What will, I would say, 9 out of 10 people do nowadays when it comes to that? They're going to go online and they're going to want to find out more about XYZ place that their vet, that their surgeon recommended to them. They're going to look up their website. They're going to look up their Google business listing. They're going to look at pictures. They're going to read reviews. They're going to try to understand more, how can this business help me and my dog? And that's the interesting thing, is that if you build then a different message, if you build this direct-to-consumer marketing approach, if you stand out from the competition through your website, through those Google reviews, through things that we're going to be talking about as we progress the week, then you're going to stand out. And even though they were referred to Clinic XYZ, they're going to look at your page and they're going to be like, oh, this looks interesting. Let me check this out a little bit more. Oh, this looks interesting. I love what they have to offer. I love how their place look like. Yeah, let me, in addition to contacting the place my vet recommended, let me contact this place too. Let me get on the phone call with them, right? Now we're going beyond marketing, so I'm not going to go into that. But then you start having that conversation with them at a different level. Now we're talking. Now you're really building a customer experience that they're not getting anywhere else. And that's going to make you stand out even more from the competition. And that's how, over the years, we have built the Canine PT basically in Chicago, because one of the biggest challenges I had when I started the Canine PT 8 years ago now is the fact that the clinic where I worked at had been around at that point in time for about a little bit over 10 years now. I think, yeah. They had been around for a little bit over 10 years, meaning they have a stronghold, if you will, on the veterinary community. So it was very hard for me to get veterinary referrals at that point in time because of it. But what started happening over time, and it took time, is that people were getting referred to go to other places, but they were finding us online. And as they found us online, they liked what we have to offer. They liked how we build a relationship with them. And of course, not all of them, but a good amount of them started coming to us instead because of that. And we were able to gradually build up our own reputation, build up, our own way of distinguishing ourselves. But for us to distinguish ourselves, we had to distinguish our marketing message. And that's where it all starts, because that's the only thing that we have in place before someone becomes a client and actually steps foot into your door, for you to differentiate yourself from any competition around you. And you need to be able to craft that message that is going to at least allow them to take the next step in their relationship with you, contact you, get on a phone call with you, and whatever it is. And that's how real marketing is really going to work. And it's going to help you take control of your business, take control of your leads, bring in clients who are going to see you as the solution to their problem, who are going to want to work with you and pay you what you're worth. And then because of that, you're going to be able to develop the business that you always wanted without having to sacrifice, your personal life for it. All right.
That 7% rule actually blew my mind, because for me, I always think, pushing our industry forward into a space where we can be regulated and recognized and really recognized is going to be the tipping factor that gets vets to refer to us. But PT has been for many, many, many years in the human industry, and that study shows that that isn't what is driving those referrals. So I think that's very, very interesting and definitely something to think about.
I think it's about a balance, but I think building veterinary referrals, building those partnerships is extremely helpful, and we've been able to do so through the years, where now veterinary referrals account as our second source of new clients. But there's just so much more out there. And that's what I was trying to get with the 7% rules. So many pet owners out there are not being told that by their vets. And we need to do a better job educating the vets so they do that. But that's a long process. And in the meantime, we also need to find ways, to educate the pet owner. So that way they're proactively looking for that solution, and we're there to help them.
Yeah. So I do have a question about that education and what you see that looking like. Because in the beginning, when you were talking about kind of what is marketing, you really highlighted that if we're marketing a product or a specific service, what I got from that is that we are essentially marketing for our competitors as well, because we're then just creating education or awareness around something that multiple people provide and not differentiating ourselves from that. So how do we create, how do we educate? What does that look like? Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a great point, right? And that's why I'm a big fan, actually, when clinics do have competition. Because if more clinics around us are marketing canine rehab, it raises awareness that canine rehab is a thing. Right now, the challenge becomes then, how do we stand out? How do we differentiate ourselves from any other place doing canine rehab, or even more particular, a particular modality, basically, right? Because if more places are offering laser therapy, for example, right, we don't want to get caught on a race to the bottom in terms of being like, okay, I'm going to have to lower my price points so people choose to come to me for laser therapy rather than going somewhere else. Same thing, that's what I'm seeing happening a lot, especially with underwater treadmill. As more clinics offer underwater treadmill, sometimes even standalone places that's all they do, underwater treadmill, it becomes a little bit challenging, because if that's what we're marketing, people are not going to know the difference. People are not going to be able to differentiate. And that they're, by default, if I don't know the difference, if what you have to offer me is the same as the other place, but the other place is charging 10, 15, 20% less, then I'm going to go to the other place, because for me, I feel like I'm getting the same, right? So what we need to figure it out with our message, which is what we're going to talk more about tomorrow. It's a combination of the message and the audience. So that way people start to understand, they're like, yeah, just because Fran and the Canine PAT offers canine rehab, it doesn't mean that I'm going to get the same experience there that I will be getting by going to getting canine rehab at this other place. Right? And some people are going to get it, and they're going to be like, you know what? I want to go to the canine PT because I connect with that message. That's what I'm looking for. And some other people are going to be like, you know what? No, I'm fine paying a little bit less and going to this other place because I'm still going to get what I'm looking for. And the market is going to have a place for everyone. But the important thing is for us to determine, where do we want to be on the marketplace, who is your target audience, and what is the overall message that you're trying to get across with it. And I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where it kind of like all starts.
Yeah, I think that helps. Thank you. I think it also kind of ties in when you were talking about the leads, and then you brought that back to the 7% rule. To me, the thought was like, well, if you're developing a relationship with owners that don't have a problem, or don't have a problem yet, and then the vet refers them to someone else, they're going to think of you. They're going to think of because you've already been creating awareness around that problem that they've now developed. So I do like that. I think that's really awesome. Thank you, Francisco. This has been fantastic.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Paw Prosper. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free, so please go and check them out at pawprosper.com. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit on Saturday, the 8th of November, 2025. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Onlinepethealth members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.